Today I'm talking with Marek, an expert in marketing automation and lead management who has worked with companies generating over 100 million annually to streamline their processes. Well, we're here today to talk about lead generation and automation, and thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So first, just let's kick it off with starting out, what is lead generation? Typically, all of us know what it is like to get an email from the website and have a little form on the website and get an email and someone's making an inquiry of some sort, right? We're familiar. Most people have heard of various lead management tools, CRMs, and things like that. What we're going to be talking about today is, a lot of the issues that people have trying to use those or use them effectively. What comes to your mind? So what would you like people to have in mind in a very practical way, more than just replying to an inquiry that just came from the website?
It's not enough to get leads. It's actually as important to manage them correctly, because the problems that I see are that those leads are not managed properly. And the usual problem is that some of the leads are coming in and the salespeople or whoever is managing the process doesn't reply to all of them or doesn't manage them correctly. And companies end up wasting money on generating more leads than basically they can work with. And also their customers are not as happy because not everybody is receiving a reply on time. And of course, the other side of the lead management problem is that the users that are submitting those inquiries are not always happy with how they are managed. And this all comes together, and companies are basically just losing money because of the inappropriate lead management process.
What does an ideal lead management situation kind of look like? Just give us an example company and how they went from, just receiving leads coming in and replying to them and then maybe forgetting a few or something like that, and then putting in better lead management.
There are 10 leads coming in through a website a week, and only 5 of those get a reply. And usually the problem is that the person who is providing the service or selling a product, they know exactly which products are more profitable for them, when they get more commission, or what is more interesting for them. So other parts of company services or products are a bit neglected. And what usually ends up happening is that companies are losing money when there is lack of ownership and lack of good lead management process. And if there are users going through your website, submitting a request, are submitting an inquiry, and you're not replying to them, then basically for each one of those leads, you are definitely losing money. And the loss itself is maybe not only monetary and not momentarily, because on one hand you might lose a converting customer, so you don't make a sale, but on the other hand you are also creating this bad aura or a bad reputation around your business by setting an example of your service. So if there is a lack of service to users, then they would usually don't reach out to you again, considering that most of the companies are in a big red ocean of competitors and everybody has got similar prices, similar products, and similar value. So every time when they do not reply to their inquiries, they are losing money at that time and also setting up themselves for worse reputation in the future.
2 thoughts on that, which is when talking about lead management, you can send a reply. You can send a reply quickly, but it might not be a good reply, right? Recently working with one of our clients, and the salesperson was like, no, I don't need oversight. Like, he was a little defensive when it was like, oh, how are the leads doing? Are we responding to all of them? How long is it taking? There was no oversight at all for years on that process. And he was a little indignant, and he insisted, I'm responding to everyone. I'm fast. I'm all this stuff. And we're like, look. We're not trying to accuse you. We're just trying to help. But what we noticed is we immediately saw that his emails that were going out had no formatting attached to them. He was copying and pasting. He may have been on the road. I don't really know exactly the circumstance, but the quotes going out to customers, and we're talking about quotes around $5,000-$10,000 each, had no formatting, no organization, no finesse, no emotional connection, just a little bit with the customer. It's just like, here's your quote, call me if you have a question, which I'm sure some people appreciate. And so we just said, okay, well, why don't we create a more simple set of processes and tools that you can use so that your quotes go out quickly, still quickly, but looking a lot better, are much more structured, has a lot more an emotional connection. The other thing that you had brought up in a call that we had recently was that your competitors, they are also having this issue, right? If the inquiry comes to your website and has to wait 24 hours for a reply, whereas the competitor, replies in less than an hour with a nicely written, personalized email from the right person, and then follows up maybe even with a call. I mean, if that was my experience, it'd be really hard for that company to justify. I mean, it really sets a precedent for how my relationship with the company is going forward. I think you had something recently similar to this, right?
Yeah, I think that my go-to example for a situation like this would be buying a coffee. So when you go to a city or wherever you live and you want, to get a cup of coffee, there are multiple coffee shops all around you, and you know exactly that the same latte will cost the same in all three or how many shops there are around you, and you will only go to this one shop because you know exactly what you're getting for your money. You're paying for service and for the value that you receive during the transaction, and it's as simple as that. The coffee costs the same everywhere, but you always choose this one single coffee shop to go and get yours.
Yeah. A couple things that we've brought up so far is just the customer's experience, right? If you manage your leads better, if you have better processes and tools to do that, and on the inquiry side, they'll have a better experience. It will reflect well on your company. They will get the information that they're looking for, the quotes or the follow-ups. On the salesman side, we're going to talk about automation in a little bit, and obviously there are things that can make their lives easier, make them more effective. Briefly, can you also mention the kinds of oversight that management gets, right? Like, let's say you're a sales manager or a business owner, you have one salesman, you have 100 salesmen. Without good lead management in place and these tools and systems to do that, I mean, you and I used to work at the same company together, and I remember we had a conversation with a sales manager about this very thing and said, do you have any real oversight on what's going on, how many calls are being placed, any statistics and data on your salespeople across Europe? And the answer was no, right? It was all gut feeling and just, have a few conversations here or there and just see what sales are made. And when we looked at the ability of giving this person some oversight into, like dashboards and statistics on his sales team and their effectiveness and what was actually going out, and that really changed a lot of things when we were working on that project.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about overseeing this process of lead management or lead flow in your company is basically you get a very good idea of what is actually happening. And on one side, as you mentioned, there are people who are used to work in one certain way. They will always, be against changes. But whenever implementing things like that, it's like always put yourself in the position or in the shoes of your customer. So on one side, your customer is the client and user of your product. Second customer is the sales manager. and the third customer is the salesperson. And the idea of approaching this lead management is to kind of make sure that you give the most value to all three of them. On one side, you want to make sure that the customer gets their reply or satisfactory reply as soon as they can. The salesperson wants to make sure that all the processes that are included in the company or that are implemented, that they actually help them, not add work on top. And the third customer, which would be the sales manager, their kind of, focus is to make sure that the targets are hit and set correct expectations at a higher level, at the C level of the company. And all of those things are possible nowadays. They're very easy to set up. They're not that expensive. And if your business owns a website, you most definitely can afford to build up a good lead management system as well.
So let's talk about a couple of those tools briefly. Just what are some of the tools that, there's many out there. What are some that you recommend for medium, small businesses that you've seen can help them start from kind of zero, right? But then also grow with them, and as more complicated or advanced needs arise, can grow with them?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to make sure, that you've got a proper online form on your website, something that can be connected to like an automation tool or a CRM of your choice. And from my perspective, the three top tools that every website or every business should utilize are proper online forms, an automation tool, and the CRM.
So we're talking about three things. Online forms, and that could be part of a CRM tool, potentially, or it could be its own thing.
Like, and then, WordPress has got like built-in WP forms or whatever. Usually those are integratable always.
Mm-hmm. And then you have an actual CRM solution of some sort, right? A lot of people, they currently have like a contacts database in maybe their ERP or something like that. And so maybe they're trying to connect their forms to the ERP. Obviously, there are CRMs that are a bit more robust or flexible, and that's probably what we're going to be you'd recommend. And then the third thing was an automation tool, and we're going to talk about automation in a second. So what is automation? Why can't we just send a form to your CRM and interact there? Like, what is this third leg that helps kind of make things possible?
So the basic things that you should and could be doing with an automation tool is that you should be able to provide, immediate value to your users. So starting with if there is a user reaching out to you via your website using an online form, they should get an immediate answer to make sure that they know that, you got the message, you are working on it, and this is the easiest thing to set up, and I think adds a lot of value to any user and to any business.
Okay, and then what's more of a advanced automation that you might do to, okay, we have this working over here, we have this over here, something needs to connect the two. If you're somewhat tech-savvy business owner, you might have seen that, okay, I can integrate, my Squarespace website with my MailChimp email newsletter list, and right, something like that.
Yeah, so what you're describing, I would call that a native integration, right? So like Squarespace would allow adding they would call it, a plugin or an add-on to natively integrate email marketing service like MailChimp within the Squarespace website. But if you are looking to do something what is not there natively, this is where any automation tool would help you. And I think that the easiest ones to use and the ones that are most accessible and have got best bang for their buck would be either Zapier or Make.com. And I think that the next step for anyone who is doing automation for their website and want to improve their lead management process would be setting up specific, customer journeys, from submitting a form on your website to receiving a valuable answer. And a very easy example of that would be if your business provides at least 3 services. For instance, you would be an online marketing agency and you would provide SEO services, website development services, and let's say Google Ads services. And when a user is sending out a form and submitting an inquiry on your website, if they can select any of those 3 services on the website using like a drop-down select or like a radio button, whichever, using that information, you would be able to set up an automation where you would provide more value to your users depending on what they select. So let's say that John Doe is submitting a form on your website and they're inquiring about Google Ads for their business. And an automation would be if a user submits a form and they are interested in Google Ads, send them this email. And this email would then consist of information about what your Google Ads services are for your clients, what you actually do, maybe some couple of case studies, a link to your social media.
And then what about actual CRMs or lead management tools, lead engagement tools?
So for a CRM, I would definitely recommend anyone starting with a free version of any CRM. There are multiple available, but I think the one that is kind of very nice looking, however, has got a danger of looming you into their, products and services is HubSpot. Mm-hmm. They offer a free online CRM forever, meaning that you would be able to manage your customers in some way. Of course, they limit you in a way that, whenever you want to do something a bit more specific, you'd have to pay for some sort of a subscription. But as I said earlier, the costs are not that big. And if you can afford running a website, you can afford having a CRM and automation tool as well. That's for sure.
Right. I mean, there's many options out there. Zoho has a pretty popular CRM, Pipedrive, HubSpot. I've run into companies that have like 3 salespeople and they're on Salesforce for some reason. I'm not sure exactly why, but just people know that Salesforce is what, sales teams use. And so they'll put together a very expensive contract with Salesforce and then realize this was not a good fit. But you and I have both seen with clients that we've worked with that just picking a good tool does not mean that your lead management project is going to go very well. We've seen experience, implementation issues where you implement something for someone. Some people are like it, some people don't. They don't want to get trained on it. And then also being very excited about it and jumping in and maybe jumping in too fast. And then 6 months later, no one's using it anymore. So can you talk a little bit about why lead management, programs often fail and what companies should do about it? What I always tell, and before you start, I'll just say, I always tell clients who are like, I'm thinking about maybe, trying out HubSpot or something. I said, look, do not just get the free account, export all your contacts, import them into HubSpot, and then start trying to configure your little, columns for your pipeline. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. The reason, in my opinion, is that they haven't actually thought through the specific sales process and what the issues currently are, how to organize it, and they might not know to do that. And that's where us as marketers, sales support, need to help them, right?
Yeah, so the first example that comes to my mind is that, if you've got an expensive pair of scissors doesn't mean you're a good hairdresser. Yeah, so buying a contract or a couple of licenses for Salesforce doesn't magically fix all your lead management issues. And the problems that are usually coming out from, these rushed implementations of, let's take our master Excel file and dump it into our new shiny CRM, is basically replicating the old process into a new tool, which basically doesn't change anything. And the important thing when implementing a CRM for lead management process is to kind of analyze your status quo, where you are right now, what is your main issue, what are your problems. And something that I mentioned before is I would look at this from 3 different perspectives. Again, from your customer perspective, from your user perspective, from your salesperson's perspective, and from your sales manager's perspective. What are all of them missing, and how you can improve their position, their situation. And when you look at things like that, then the answers for the setup and those ideas, they just start pouring in, and then you just kind of have to prioritize. If the issue is that your customers or users don't always get a reply or a timely answer, first things first, implement a process that would get them an answer, a valuable answer about their specific situation as quickly as possible. If your salesperson is overwhelmed with a number of unqualified leads coming in, create a lead qualification automation. So add an extra step between your salesperson and the end user to make sure that the end user has to do one more step to actually make them sales qualified lead. And for your sales manager, there are definitely some things that they would like to know more of, something that they don't know of at all. And when you ask them, what do you want to know? What is the problem? Why you can't improve the situation, with conversions or something like that. Maybe they are missing key information from their customers or an input from their salespeople. And as easy as that, whenever you implement a lead management process where something is not getting converted, so you can't sell a service, make sure that your salesperson has to provide you with information why they weren't able to convert. Would it be, customer expectations? Would it be lesser value compared to competitors? Or maybe the lead time is too long? Whichever of those. And when you get information about, 10, 100 lost conversions, then you'd be able to see very, very easily in a dashboard, in a report, that out of 100 leads, you are losing, 70% because your lead times are too long. And then your decision for investment or decision to shorten those lead times will be much easier, because you would be able to see, 70% of those leads didn't purchase from us because our lead times are too long. And if we would be able to, let's say, at least cut the lead times in half, maybe we can reach out to all of those users that didn't convert because of that specific reason and say, hey, we have updated our processes, now we can provide you with the service much quicker. Would you be interested to return to conversation? And as easy as that.
So it sounds like this needs to take a lot of thought, right? Because what you just described was a long-term view of how to use this tool to directly affect the business operations, and then how to re-engage maybe with lost leads previously down the road once your business can align better, correct? So it's not just this quick fix. It's a long-term investment and that you should be doing anyway, that theoretically we would be doing anyway, but the tools exist to help facilitate that.
Correct. And maybe for someone it might not be, as easy to understand. Maybe those ideas are not available for them so easily, and that's just the reason why you have companies that provide services like that can help you with that. Just imagine that whichever service you are providing, you provide it because you're an expert of that. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but in things like that, I would suggest really to speak to any expert or any other business owner that has already implemented a CRM to kind of understand what you're dealing with, and then seek professional help.
Get professional help. So speaking of getting professional help, if a business owner is listening to this and it's like, okay, where would I start to learn more about these things? Obviously, YouTube exists. Websites for these different companies exist. But is there like a short course or a little YouTube series that you've used in the past, or maybe you've sent to people that you're working on this with, that we could put in the show notes?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest checking whichever CRM you're going to be choosing, their help desk or knowledge base. Usually that's packed with information, and we're living, in times where everyone is trying to provide more educational content, more value to their users, and CRM systems are the same. So
right.
I'm a big fan of HubSpot, and their HubSpot Academy is loaded with courses. I know that you mentioned Pipedrive. They have a Pipedrive Academy and knowledge base as well. Salesforce have got one as well. So wherever you are in the process, if you are set to try 1 to 3 different CRMs, just get a trial account and look through their knowledge base, and they'll definitely have something to help them with.
And one other thing that I could mention would be probably any of the above, as long as the pricing works and the general features work well for you. Any of those will work. The thing that's going to make it or break it is how you implement it, and if you take the time to implement it correctly in a way that makes sense, like you said, for your customer, for your sales team, and for management, and into your business operations. So in many ways, the tool doesn't matter. There are great tools out there. It's more of how you use it, right?
Correct.